The year 2022 is considered one of the worst years of this century. Giving you some examples, Russia's invasion of Ukraine on February 24th would completely change world geopolitics. Since then, not only have there been constant threats by Putin of a possible nuclear war, but a trade war over energy and natural gas has also broken out in Europe as a consequence. The sabotage of the Nord Stream gas pipelines in the Baltic Sea is conclusive proof of this. Nor should we forget China's threat to Taiwan, when in August of this year, Chinese planes invaded Taiwan's airspace in the form of a threat to a possible war between these two countries. Nancy Pelosi's visit to the island has further increased tensions, prompting China to respond with more threats. Not to mention, China is still battling the virus and has had super strict lockdowns in its cities, causing logistics problems around the world. On the other hand, the inflation of the main currencies, such as the dollar, the euro, and the pound, have skyrocketed due to the monetary policies carried out during and after the pandemic. But things got worse when central bankers, to combat the uncontrollable rise in inflation, were forced to raise interest rates on government bonds, causing an obvious drop in global stock markets. In other words, the cheap money party is over and big debt entities will have a really hard time this year. However, this is only the beginning of something even bigger. Although the United States and Europe entered a technical recession in 2022, it's important to know that the recession will be felt in the real economy months later. That is why the 2022 recession will continue at larger levels in 2023. Just a few days ago, the president of the International Monetary Fund, Kristalina Georgieva, warned that a third of the planet will suffer the effects of the recession this 2023. According to her, it will be a tough year, and she assured that the three main economies of the world, China, the United States, and the European Union, will slow down. Even Jeff Bezos, the owner of Amazon, has been recommending not spending on unnecessary things and saving as much money as possible. He believes that the recession in 2023 could get out of control, and the worst thing that could happen to you is to be without savings and without a job. The year 2023 will be highlighted mainly by these 5 types of economic crises. Let us begin. Number 1. End of cash. More and more people are aware that fiat money issued by central banks only benefits governments and a small elite, and harms all other citizens. By inflating the money supply, the purchasing power of income and savings generally decreases, while governments accumulate debt to finance their wars and questionable welfare programs. This inevitably leads to economic crises and an increase in poverty. But this malicious system would be even worse if it were combined with traceable transactions. The only good thing about fiat money is that it also comes in physical form, allowing us to make anonymous and private transactions. That is why governments and central banks do not like that, so they intend to replace all cash with a new concept of money called CBDC, which stands for Central Bank Digital Currency. Europe plans to carry out more tests in 2023 with its CBDC called Euro Digital, and according to the official website of the European Central Bank, a digital euro would provide an anchor for the stability of our money in the digital age. In other words, they are using the excuse that we are in the digital age and that cash is an old term to introduce it to the population. In addition to Europe, the central banks of other countries, such as Brazil, Russia, Japan, Turkey, China, and Australia, are trying to introduce CBDCs and eliminate cash in 2023. If CBDCs existed in our lifetimes, the government would know exactly how we spend our money. They could stop any payment or even confiscate our money if we don't behave as we are supposed to. Let's go with an example. Imagine for a moment that drunken car accidents increase in the first quarter of 2023. The government, through the same application where you have all your money in the form of CBDC, could easily ban you or limit your purchase of alcohol. Now add a point system called social credit, where you have a certain score according to how good a citizen you are. With the successful launch of CBDCs, it would be the absolute end of our privacy. Cash is synonymous with freedom and has worked perfectly well for many, many years. Although one might think that physical money is a thing of the past or a bad thing since it is unconsciously related to inflation, the truth is that the only problem with cash is that it is in the hands of the central banks that decide how many bills to print. So no matter what, let's never stop using cash. Number 2. Unemployment crisis. As we mentioned at the beginning of the video, despite the fact that stock markets around the world already fell last year, including cryptocurrencies and the real estate market, the real effects of this fall are seen a few months later. And the first effect of this fall is unemployment. The first wave of unemployment has already started in the technology sector. The most iconic companies such as Tesla, Facebook, Google, and even Amazon have already begun to lay off their employees. That is why it was news that thousands of people were left without a job overnight. But now, the layoffs of companies in other sectors that have a large number of employees are beginning. For example, Walmart has announced layoffs, but that many stores will also close due to the delicate economic situation in the United States. These retail-type stores, in addition to enduring red numbers on their ledger, have been experiencing record levels of shoplifting. But going back to unemployment, as we see in this graph, the level of unemployment in the United States is relatively stable, and that's where this big question arises. Why has unemployment not skyrocketed yet? Well, this is a pretty common thing in a recession. That is, companies normally react slowly to an economic crisis, and true unemployment is seen a few months later. A clear example of this occurred in the Great Recession of 2008. The economic recession began in late 2007 and early 2008, but unemployment only spiked in 2009 until reaching its peak in 2010. Right now, we are in a moment of calm before the storm. Probably true employment will be seen in the year 2023 and its peak at the end of this year. Number 3. Shortage of lithium. The shortage of supplies in electrical and electronic devices will be one of the great crises of the year 2023. Although there are already shortages in certain corners of the world of other types of goods and services, such as electricity and fuel in Europe, food and drinking water in African and Asian countries, or general shortages in Latin America, things will get much worse this 2023, especially in the electronic device sector. We all agree that China is the factory of the world. If China stops its production or its exports, the whole world would be affected. And it is exactly what is happening now, but it could get worse this year depending on the progress of the bug. Since August 2013, China has been at the top of the list of top exporters. China's exports to the world are mainly electrical and electronic devices such as mobile phones, computers, machinery, integrated circuits, and batteries. With the boom in electric cars and electronic devices, lithium is a mineral that is becoming more and more scarce. The largest lithium reserves are in Bolivia and Argentina. However, the extraction of this mineral by national or foreign companies is very difficult due to the large amount of taxes that the government charges you, and as a consequence, it becomes very unprofitable to earn money extracting this resource. That is why Australia, even without having large reserves, is currently ranked number 1 in global lithium production. If we take into account that Australia exports its lithium to China and Taiwan, the moment a war breaks out between the latter two countries or China stops its general exports, the price of everything that contains lithium will skyrocket. If you add this to the inflation that is threatening in practically every country in the world, electrical and electronic goods will become really expensive and scarce. Even so, as we said before, everything will depend on how hard the Chinese government is with the restrictions and the progress in a possible conflict between China and Taiwan in 2023. Number 4. Real estate crash. One of the biggest concerns of 2023 for many people will be the price of their homes and their mortgages. In simple words, the housing bubble of 2008 was caused by the United States government itself and its central bank, specifically during Bush's first term in 2001, by exaggeratingly cheapening mortgage loans. At that time, even a person with a low income could easily apply for a mortgage at any bank and buy a house. But the problem began when the debt got out of control and there were not enough savings on the part of the borrowers to support it. Later, when the US government decided to raise mortgage interest rates, individuals and companies realized that they did not have enough savings to cover the loan, and the bubble burst. This is exactly what is about to happen again in the year 2023. And this time, it will not only happen in the housing sector, but in all sectors of the economy. But we are going to focus only on the real estate sector of the United States and Europe. With regard to the US real estate market, things are really ugly. This is the evolution of the 30-year mortgage rate in the United States, and as can be seen, this rate exceeded 6%, levels similar to that of 2008. This graph means that mortgage interest is becoming more expensive, so that families and companies have to allocate more money to the monthly mortgage payment, in addition to the constant rise in housing prices, which makes the situation even worse. If we add to this that the US economy is in recession, inflation does not stop eating away at family savings, and wages are getting lower. It is clear that a huge bubble is about to burst. And it will probably happen this 2023 in case the recession worsens, inflation soars, or the Fed continues raising interest rates. Going to Europe, the situation is very similar to that of the United States, and this is because the European Central Bank copies the same monetary policies as the Federal Reserve. The Euribor is an indication that measures the price at which European banks lend money to each other. In the same way that people and companies go to the bank to request a loan, the banks themselves also lend funds to each other when they need them, and for which they pay a corresponding interest. This is called the interbank market. But the most important thing about this indicator is that it indirectly predicts the probability of a real estate collapse. And apparently, since 2022, the graph has not stopped rising, really causing concern for all borrowers with unpayable mortgages. Should the Federal Reserve and the European Central Bank continue to raise interest rates this year, there is no doubt that there will be a collapse in the real estate sector, and perhaps worse than in 2008. Number 5. Cost of living crisis. The cost of living crisis has been going on for several decades, but it will worsen throughout 2023. This type of crisis is one that nobody talks about, and it is the most important of all. The cost of living is the money that must be allocated month by month to live comfortably. Or rather, it is the relationship between what one earns and what one spends. For example, in the 70s or 80s in the United States, a middle-class worker could perfectly support a family, buy a car, a house, pay for their children's university, and all with the savings they obtained working at a job. But today, things are very different. The real salary has not stopped falling, and although in nominal terms today more money is earned than 50 years ago, in real terms that is, taking into account the number of products and services we can buy with that salary, we are very bad. The main cause of this crisis is the government and its central bank addicted to printing money and giving away credits. Therefore, the only way to reverse this trend is, of course, to stop inflation, but above all, to encourage companies to produce more goods and services. By doing this, all the prices in the economy would naturally fall. Furthermore, wages would also rise in real terms as employers would hire more people to support this increase in production and expand their business. Everything would work as it should work, and without the intervention of a central bank that distorts everything. In conclusion, the year 2023 will be a challenging year for many. It is better to be prepared for any type of crisis, and for this, it is important to pay outstanding debts, eliminate unnecessary expenses, and protect savings with gold and silver as our ancestors have done.